Let's get the bidding started here. Now, who's going to give me a bid on this fine young girl? That's the spirit, that's the spirit. Now, this girl don't come cheap. You know, we went to a lot of trouble and transportation. That's the spirit. Come on, give me a bid. 60. I hear 60 now. You're sure making me work hard for my...
La verdad, allá ahorita, punto que por ahorita está difícil. Difícil en el aspecto de que en vez de ayudar va para abajo todo. O sea, es la única alternativa que tiene la gente, es decir, voy a los Estados Unidos. Y si hay una oportunidad como la que yo encontré, van a venir para acá.
The determining factors of trafficking are the elements of force, fraud, and coercion. Traffickers rape, beat, and torture their victims to keep them under control. And it's not uncommon for women to be gang raped or deprived food and water. Many that are rescued have severe health issues such as STDs, kidney and liver problems from drug and alcohol consumption, and damages from kitchen table abortions.
As an organization, and personally, I don't have a viewpoint that all prostitution is sex trafficking of some form. I would say I'm probably somewhere in the middle, in that there is clear definitions of sex trafficking and there is a difference between sex trafficking and prostitution. The hard thing and the difficult thing is that there is a lot of gray.
Y habían hombres que te tocaban la cerveza para ver si te la habías tomado y te la tenías que tomar a fuerza. Entonces llegabas el siguiente día, tal vez ni comida tenías en tu casa. ¿Cómo te pasaba esa cruda, lo que sentías? O sea, no te dolía la cabeza, ya eran las 2 y ya te tenías que bañar, arreglar, porque a las 2 tenías que irte otra vez para allá o te tenían que llegar a recoger. O sea, no te ha pasado todavía y vas a ir otra vez a lo mismo. Y decía yo, ¿cuándo, Dios mío, voy a salir de esto? O sea, es un sacrificio, es una tortura. Para mí eso era.
Labor trafficking is just not as sexy. Sex trafficking really pulls on those moral heartstrings, if you will, that for whatever reason labor trafficking doesn't. You know, I don't know why, or I don't know, I guess I have some theories, but labor trafficking, I think sometimes just in like a societal view, people don't see labor trafficking to be as bad as sex trafficking. Because the media focuses so much on sex trafficking, everyone thinks that that's all there is. Actually, labor trafficking is 3 times bigger, and the cases are bigger.
You can always use the statistics to make all kinds of arguments. And sometimes, I mean, if the higher numbers have made people more interested to serve these victims, I mean, I'm fine with it. But to tell you the truth, I mean, there's no way for me to make sure. All I do is I look at who is issuing these numbers, and if I feel that they are, you know, either a group that I trust and I know their work, so that's kind of what I go with more.
ISU is an international hub for sex trafficking. One, because of its diverse culture. Second, because of its major corridors that route through the rest of the United States.
I think the rhetoric of immigration enforcement today can play a role. I think it really works to stymie the willingness of people to come forward that have information. I think that that conversation that's occurring at a very loud level today is hampering our ability to deal with these particular crimes.
Y nos fuimos y estuvimos ahí escondidas para que no nos hallara migración. Y el montón de zancudos, pero eran miles de zancudos. Yo ya no aguantaba la picazón. Se me metían hasta por los oídos porque está al lado del río y estaba la peste de zancudo. Yo quería gritar, pero no queríamos hacer bulla porque los iban a encontrar.
We started as one of the 18 core cities in late 2004 and are now one of 40 major task forces around the country receiving federal funds from the Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance to go after the human traffickers and to rescue the victims of human trafficking. We must have both of those elements. We cannot prosecute without rescuing victims, and we cannot rescue victims without prosecuting the traffickers.
I know I had a lot of discussions that said there were no trafficking victims in Houston. And now, years later, they certainly know that that's not correct. But the meetings for the task force would open with the leader of the meeting being a U.S. attorney saying there are no victims in Houston. I don't know why the Department of Justice is making us do this. It was just a waste of time, and that's somewhere else, not here.
I feel that this is a movement and a problem that takes everyone to come on board and work together, because it's so multifaceted and multidimensional. Like, you do really need all different types of people combating the problem from different angles.
O sea, prácticamente vivía como peor que en mi país, sentía yo, porque no tenía nada, ni para tortillas, ni para nada. Y si llegaban hombres, cuando llegaban ahí, decía, llévate a esta, y le compras comida si quieres, o sea, por sexo. Decía, esta pendeja, esta puta tiene que pagar. Entonces, invítala toda la noche. Invítala que toma y luego si quieres te la llevas y te la coges. Haz lo que quieras con ella. Esas eran las palabras de él. Aprendí muchas cosas. Uno aprende mucho, duele, lloro a veces. Cuando lo cuento lloro porque yo siento el sentimiento que no lo he terminado de... O sea, para mí llegar a Estados Unidos fue ver la muerte, sufrir todo.
With the T visa being able to provide a temporary stay in this country, it really gives the victim an opportunity of one less thing to worry about and just really give them some time to process the events.
They qualify for these visas not because they're immigrants just seeking, to get status. It was because of what they had to go through in order, the fact that they were abused and hurt in so many ways. But the way I see it is that because of their immigration status, they became very vulnerable, that the perpetrators were able to hurt them more and to control them. So it was used actually in order to, their immigration status was one of the key factors where the perpetrators were able to do what they did.
¿Yo por qué? Yo en mi cuenta ya te pagué lo que... No. ¿Sabes qué? Dame la carta, porque en eso me estaban chantajeando con lo que me habían sacado de migración y que migración me ha pagado no sé qué. Entonces, dame el recibo del pago que hiciste tú a migración de $5,000, que eso era lo que me estaba cobrando más después de los $22,000. Dame esos recibos y yo te los pago, pero no te los voy a pagar de aquí. Yo me voy a ir. No, que no, que no. Ok, dámelos. Entonces me enfadó tanto y le dije yo, ¿sabes qué? Si no me lo das, yo te voy a meter. A ellos mencionarle la policía o migración o qué sé yo, ellos les agarraban un ataque de nervios. Porque le dije eso porque me dijo, si tú te vas, si tú no me pagas esto, te voy a mandar a matar a tus hijos, a tu mamá y a toda tu familia.
There's a lot more awareness than there was in 2003 and 4. And there's a small incremental increase of victims getting services. But there's this big gap between everyone that goes and does their TV thing or their meeting or, whatever is kind of public. But then take that and everything that's said there and getting it right to the victim, big gap, absolutely big gap. I mean, as you look, how many victims must there be of trafficking in Houston? And how many have you met?
This is a task force effort, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just give you an idea of what we've accomplished since our formation in late 2004. We have rescued over 175 victims, almost 100 in one single case, the Mondragon case, which we're still working based on the victims that need services, but all the defendants have been convicted. We have arrested 33 traffickers and taken them into custody since the formation of the task force. In the last year alone, 9 international subjects have been charged with federal offenses and 7 domestic victims. We cannot forget that this problem is not just related to immigrants that enter our country, ladies and gentlemen. We have severe problems on the streets of Houston and other major cities with domestic victims, young girls ages 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, who are being operated by pimps on the city streets.
The statistics show very few have gotten T visas. And they wind up arrested. I mean, one of my mottos is I spend all my day getting victims out of jail. And that's really takes an enormous amount of time. It is so much harder once somebody has them detained than it is if they've been helped from the beginning. And then with that comes so much more trauma. I mean, to recover from that, you don't just get better when you're detained after you've been a sex trafficked victim. The PTSD kicks up, the fear, the feeling of worthlessness. I mean, it's too much. It really is. Some of them may not make it.
A esa cárcel nos llevaron desde Houston. Un frío que estaba haciendo allá. Nos llevaron, nos tuvieron toda la noche en un cuarto helado, y todas llorando, las 25 mujeres que íbamos. Yo andaba a teléfono y le decía a mi esposo, ¿dónde está? No sé dónde estoy bien lejos, estoy a 3 horas de Houston, no sé, a 4. No sé dónde estoy, me decía, mira, ¿y qué van a hacer? Me van a deportar de seguro y me han traído aquí, pero yo llorando. A esto yo no sabía absolutamente nada de lo que es inglés, nada, absolutamente. Nos van a meter en una cárcel donde hay puras morenas. Y nosotros no sabíamos nada cuando nos decían cosas, solo nos poníamos ahí como sonsa. Y nos trataron mal esa vez en esa cárcel, nos trataron súper mal, nos echaban desinfectante a todas así. Nos echaban como supuestamente éramos prostitutas. Había bastante prostitución adentro, pero yo pasé por eso, pero yo ya estaba haciendo otra vida, pero estaba metida ahí, estaba siempre en el mismo tráfico, con ellos mismos, era como esclava de ellos, todo eso todavía. Y nos trataron súper mal ahí cuando llegamos.
Especially sexual violence survivors, whether it's rape, incest, or sex trafficking, they do not want to participate in the criminal justice system. They do not want to tell their story again in front of a judge, in front of a jury, in front of other people. They don't want to face their abuser. And so it can become very difficult. And so they do feel sometimes a little bit of pressure or feel misunderstood. And so that also causes some emotional stress on victims.
We brought them in here and not knowing what we can do, but we were guided by the law enforcement. But these are the things we're doing for them. Can you hold on to them for a while? What resources do you have? Well, we got counseling. We can send them to, to classes, ESL classes, to temporarily, so they'll know exactly what's being asked of them, to learn some English, get them some clothes, get them to feel a little bit safe. That it's not, the world is not like that. Or at least where we're at, it's not like that.
In the beginning, I thought, we just need to train people. I have a training business. I mean, that's where I thought the purpose would be. Train. But then I see Houston Vice arrested a 13-year-old who was prostituted and mentally deficient. 13. They arrested her. Did not even interview the 32-year-old boyfriend that was putting her out. Then that case goes to our Harris County Sheriff's Office, and they prosecute her for 3 years, all the way to the Texas Supreme Court. Now, I know they know, because I trained HPD, and I know everything that we said was any minor in commercial sex is a victim of trafficking.
Hay muchas personas alrededor que tienen su trabajo normal, que van todos los días, tienen un hogar, tienen una casa y todo, pero no se dan cuenta de como todos esos nightclubs que hay, todo eso, ahí están pasando cosas que la gente afuera no sabe. Porque digo yo, así como hicieron con nosotros, yo sé que hay más. Entonces, ¿por qué la policía o por qué no el FBI no investiga y se va a meter a lugares de eso? Porque felices la gente que están afuera.
A lot of the folks on that task force don't do this every day. They work other jobs, and it's one little part of something else they do. And I think to combat trafficking, you have to take it professionally. You can't show up occasionally and go to a meeting and work a case a year. This is complex, growing, and it's fluid, and it needs people that are dedicated, that do it all the time, which is why we wrote the 2 deputies in.
With all that we have, I could literally take half of my department and put it to investigate that, and the numbers probably wouldn't change that much because of the intensive investigative process that's involved. And so those are all the challenges that we have before us. And so I would beg to differ that very little has happened. A great deal has happened. And that has been to the success and to the support of the private community. We just need to continue to do more.
The example is the man that I wrote the position for that got the job that was housed with the FBI. I called him 2 weeks after he was hired, and I said, I have a 16-year-old being prostituted. She's called for help at this location. I need you to come with me to go get her. He wouldn't come. He told me he had paperwork. And this was a case I know that they'd been monitoring for a year. He would not come get her. I went to go get her. I was not going to leave her there. And then I was berated for going to get her. But he wouldn't come. He's the same person that wouldn't sign Kiki's law enforcement declaration. And so sometimes people are put in those positions for whatever reason that they are not going to let victims come through the system. And so sometimes that's the problem. I don't know why that is. I asked him when he was first hired, I go, why did you pick this? And he said, because I'm about 8 years out from retirement and I want something easy. And I said, right then, go away. This is not, this is not a good fit. No, I can imagine a worse answer, And I felt so bad because I had written the job that put him in his position. He's still there to this day.
The Johns are obviously an important dynamic. If there is no demand, there is no need for the supply. But in the ability of stopping the Johns, if you will, or getting them to change their mind, it's not going to happen. There's either an illness or a particular psyche that's involved that a message from law enforcement will likely not be effective.
I'm issuing a warning. In Texas, we're coming after you. We're going to make the penalty stiff, and we will find you. In addition to building on the foundation laid, I am committed to tackling head-on the engine that feeds this industry, those that create the demand for the trafficking. Via the money and the clientele, we're going to identify perpetrators, we're going to identify predators, we're going to stiffen the penalties this coming session, and make no mistake about it, we will begin to bring an end to this heinous industry.
You look to the mandates of what the federal government is principally concerned with and dealing with. Terrorism is at the top, and human trafficking is not. And so we all want to do more. We need the resources to do more. And until my county commissioners begin to realize that this is a problem and allocate me the resources to do more, it won't happen. Until Congress understands that this is a problem and allocates more resources to the FBI and the United States Attorney to deal with this issue, it won't happen.
I've seen a lot of apathy, and you'd be surprised. I mean, it always looks good in public, but it's very messy when you actually get a victim.
I think the biggest challenge is when our different approaches collide with one another, or maybe they just don't work with one another or mesh with one another. And if there's any politics involved, and it happens with every issue, there is going to be some politics involved in terms of funding and resources and things like that. So those are, I think, some of the main challenges. But I think, at the end of the day, most of those challenges can be overcome with open and honest dialogue amongst groups. And I hope that we build a reputation that we are willing to have open and honest dialogue and try to work with everyone who's in the movement in some capacity, because we all, like I said, add something to the movement itself.
Since the Mondragon case and the period of time that we've been working, I think we've done a lot. And especially in Houston, what they've done, what we've all done, generated a lot of awareness. And that's why Houston is what Houston is. They're trying to conquer human trafficking.
Lo único que puedo decir es que gracias a Dios que estoy viva. Gracias a las organizaciones, a todos los que nos apoyaron, y que la vida sigue y que Dios me da otra oportunidad para seguir, y que estoy muy feliz, que tengo a mis hijos, tengo un esposo, y que todo lo que me pasó a mí yo no se lo deseo a nadie, y que no sé, que estoy muy feliz. Estoy feliz.
trafficking.